It's the first week of the year, the first month of the year. If there's ever a time to make change in your life, it's now. If there's something that didn't happen in 2020 that didn't go your way, if you didn't make enough money, if you have too much debt, if you don't have a plan, right now is the perfect time to change because it's January and you can get a fresh start. Everyone here can have a new opportunity to do something new with their life. And I'm going to share with you some tips that will allow you to make dramatic change if you apply them, if you start now. So if you apply this right now and keep going and use this and do what I say, I promise you, it may not happen in a week or a month, or maybe it'll take a couple of years to do, but over time, this will happen. Some of them are easier than others, and you'll get to see results right away. Building wealth is long-term. You'll see that many years from now. But right now, I want to talk to you about some basic things and some of the things that maybe you haven't heard of before that will really impact your financial picture. So number one, you have to do a budget. I know many of you don't want to hear this because it takes work. Budgeting is almost like the routine of exercise. You know, you want to be fit, you want to lose weight, you have to exercise. And the budgeting is the exercise, the getting on the treadmill, lifting those weights, doing those burpees. That's the budget you have to do. If you don't do the budget, you will continue to overspend. I promise you. I promise you will continue to overspend if you don't budget. So you have to put things on paper. Put it down on writing. Put what you make and start deducting all your expenses. It'll take you about 2 or 3 months to get the budget right because you're going to forget things, not add things. Things are going to come up. But there's a couple things that you want you to add to the budget. Apart from the monthly rent, mortgage, gas, car payments, debt payments, you name it. I want you to add a couple things that people don't think about adding to their budget. Number one is Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. It happens every year. We just don't plan for it. So think about what you spent in December. Maybe you spent too much. Maybe you spent just the right amount. But whatever you want to spend, decide that. And I want you to divide that by 12. And now starting January, you're going to start putting money away from January to December and start saving for this. And you can either do it 2 ways. You can do it by, I'll put my little envelope here. You could do it in a Christmas envelope like this, put cash every month, and that'll be your Christmas club. You can open a separate bank account. Ally Bank has a savings account where you can do sub accounts and you can actually segregate your one account into like 10. So that's and name them. So feel free to use that. Whatever works for you, you got to find out. If you have to open up a separate savings account, do that. So I want you to put that money systematically every month. It's called a sinking fund from January to December. And guess what? When you get to December, you go and get that envelope and you only spend what's in here or that savings account. And you only spend once it's gone, the money's gone and you're done. Tires, car expenses that don't happen monthly. Gifts in general, whether it's birthday, weddings, anniversaries are big. They don't happen every month, but we don't plan for those events. So when they do happen, we end up either pulling out a savings that wasn't really allocated for that fund, or we take it out of, put on credit cards. So start doing a budget, add those items in. I want you to add another item called miscellaneous because you're gonna forget something in the budget and you wanna add a miscellaneous item anywhere from about $50 to $200, which should be fine. And that'll be your, oops, I forgot that I had to buy this or I needed this. But if it happens every month, that same item, I want you to go ahead and change the budget for the next month. And you're gonna add that line item on February's budget. And move forward, you're gonna plan for that expense if it happens every month. If it's something that you forgot, just keep the miscellaneous. That'll give you a good buffer just in case something does happen and you're not able to anticipate that. So once you have the budget, you gotta follow it. So a couple things to follow it: create these envelopes and use them. They're called cash envelopes. And what you'll do is you'll figure out some of the items in your budget that maybe you just have a hard time sticking to. For many of you, it's food, whether it's groceries or it's restaurants. I mean, not lately anymore. That used to be a big one for me. But, you know, it could be Christmas too, anything. So tires. So you can create an envelope for any category. The trick here is that you have to be consistent on putting cash in. So every time you get paid, go into the ATM, put cash and stuff that envelope, put it somewhere safe. When you need it, you take the envelope, and when the envelope is done, guess what? You stop spending. All right, simple as that. So there has to be some type of limit there. Most of you don't like doing a budget because it tells you kind of feel like it's going to limit you. In fact, it's going to give you permission to spend. So without the guilt, you can actually buy purses and shoes and go on vacations, and you can buy gadgets and laptops and the new iPhone if you wanted to, as long as it fits in your budget. No longer do we need to buy things on credit and figure out how to pay for it later. We have to plan for these things. And listen to this. You deserve it, right? Because a lot of times we tell ourselves that we deserve things, so we buy them, right? Justifying the purchase. Oh, I work hard, I deserve this. Oh, I work hard, I deserve to buy this house, this car, these shoes, this clothes, this outfit. And 30 days later, that outfit, those shoes gets old, and you have this buyer remorse or this regret in that you bought this item and it no longer gives you that same joy that it gave when you opened up that box, right? And it slowly goes away. So guess what you do? You buy something else, and you keep on kind of filling that void with buying things that don't really bring you true joy. So we want to go back to really going to the budget. If you want to pay for things and buy things, and you want to have a Peloton and you want to have this car, make sure it fits in the budget. If it doesn't, figure out a way how to release yourself from these obligations, so that way you can pay yourself back and reclaim that money. So sticking to that budget, using the cash envelopes, sticking to that budget by either putting it away in a separate account, or only using debit cards, because honestly, credit cards is a trap for most of us. I think most of us think that we have a good handle on it, but it's proven that when we use card, we overspend. Think about this. When you go to, let's say you're going to get a salad, and the salad costs $10, right? You give the person $10. It's, 10 green dollars, right? And they give you a salad. Think about this now. When you swipe a credit card and you buy the same salad with $10, are you going to get the $10 the credit card back? Yes, they're going to give it to you in return along with the salad. Think about what happens psychologically in your mind or unconsciously, where there's no trade value there. With the $10, I lose it. I don't get it back. Maybe it's $9.95 and I get 5 cents back, right? Maybe it's $8 and I get $2 back, and I don't get the full $10 back. With the card, however, I swipe and they give me the salad and the card. Think about what happens in your mind. There's no loss. Think about how many times you've been to a restaurant and you just laid the card down. They didn't even look at the bill, right? It's just a matter of convenience of swiping, but it's a trap for most of us, where we're in a position where we're overspending because we're using credit cards for a measly 1% back, right? So think about this. You're getting 1% back. So for every $100, you're getting $1. For every $1,000, you're getting 10. Oh, but Pete, I would have spent this money already. I might as well get my money, my points or rewards. Listen, I promise you, if you're spending freely on credit cards, you're spending more than the points that you're getting on that card, right? I mean, the only way I'd advise you to use it, if you know for sure you're buying this airline ticket and it's actually coming from money that you have saved up for that vacation, you put it on the card for whatever reason, you pay it off right away. Right, it's the only way I see it. But if you're gonna walk around just using cards just to get the miles and the points, it's really ridiculous. You're not really. I promise you that you're overspending, because it's really hard to do a budget and live on credit cards. Right, it's almost impossible. And even if you pay the credit cards down in full every month, I still promise you that you're overspending. Maybe you have excess money. You can put that money to better use. You can invest more in your money if you were doing a budget and sticking to that. I personally use debit cards and cash. I rarely use credit cards because it just doesn't make sense. So do those things with the budget. Once you get the budget down, you want to be able to have some type of cushion for emergencies, right? Because if your plan is to get out of debt, you have to figure out a way to stop using credit cards. For most of us, our emergency fund is a credit card. All right, that's our emergency. We kind of depend on that credit card. If you think about 40 years ago, right, before, or 50 years ago, before credit cards existed, people would figure a way out to live with cash. Credit cards came in the picture and really changed the economy. I mean, it's convenient, yes. We used to do layaways. Remember that? We used to have to, find what you wanted, and then our parents would go every week and put $20 away, $50 away until they had it, and then you would come home with it months or weeks later. Now that doesn't even exist. You go to the store, you don't have the money, put it on credit, take it home today, and then figure out later. It's not a way to live anymore. And you think about like why you're in debt and why things happen, but we're doing it to ourselves. But something has to give. Something has to change. We have to get to the point where we look at debt and get mad at it, right? We get angry at that. It's not our friend. Debt is not a tool. It could be a trap for many. And in the good book, it says that the borrower is a slave to the lender. And many of you are just slaves to Visa, MasterCard, Nissan, BMW, Ford. We're just slaves to, because we have to work for them. We have to work. Part of our paycheck goes, and part of the time that you put towards your job goes to paying that company, right? You need to reclaim that. Get out of debt. The sooner you get out of debt, the sooner you can be free to do more things with your income. It frees up, gives you a raise. Once you do a budget, you'll find out areas that you're overspending. That's an automatic raise, because $1 saved is $1 earned, my friend. So if we can get to the point where we're limiting overspending, we're still spending, right? But it's not just blanket. Let's just do what we want. No, it's strategic. We're going to plan our vacations. We're going to plan our entertainment, our outings. We're going to plan our grocery shopping. I'll give you a quick tip on groceries. If you're having trouble with the grocery shopping, go to wherever you go food shopping and create a cart, right? Create that cart. And once you create that cart, I want you to print it or save it however you can. Don't check out online. Take that list to the supermarket, and then you're using that list. This is for those that need to stick to a certain amount of budget based on their income. For some of you that doesn't work, that's okay. This is not, maybe that doesn't work for you. I'm just giving you a tool or an advice if you're having issues with sticking to your grocery budget. Now, going back to credit cards, we stop using credit cards, right? The first thing I want you to do is, and if you don't have this, I want you to create what I call a baby emergency fund. It's not a fully funded emergency fund, but it'll get you through if you had a minor emergency. And an emergency is different from you and I. I may need a couple $1,000s because I have a house or different expenses, and if something were to break or go wrong, I have a bigger liabilities and bigger expenses, or maybe you need a bigger emergency fund than me. It really depends on what you feel comfortable with. I would say if you're younger, maybe you're 18 to 20 something, still living with parents or something, or have very few expenses, don't have the responsibility if your water tank broke and you have to replace it, things like that. Maybe 500 to 1,000 will be right for you, right? If you own a home and you have those things where your heat went, or your HVAC went, or your hot water went, right? And you need maybe a couple $1,000s, maybe it's $2,000 to $5,000, right? It really depends on where you're at. So figure out, if you're married, talk to your spouse, say, hey, where do we need to be with our emergency fund, and what's a good bottom mark to have? And what you do is you stop paying you pay the minimum on all your debt. Stop paying extra into debt until you have this amount. Why? Because until you have this emergency fund, you're going to continue using credit cards to fund your emergencies. And again, you have to prepare for these things. So by having, if you're using excess cash to pay down debt, and then you have zero, $100, couple $100 in savings, an emergency happens, guess what? You're going to go back to the credit card to use because you didn't save, or you don't have it saved enough for the emergency to cover the expense. So once you're there, you have your baby emergency fund. Now I want you to go back to debt. So what I see that most people do wrong is that you do everything, but you do not do one thing well, right? You want to fund your kids' college. You want to max out your 401k. You want to have a car note, right? Whether that's lease or finance. You want to have private schools. You want to do these fancy vacations, or whatever it is, right? You also want to pay down debt. Let me tell you something. If you're in debt, you can't do everything at once. Otherwise, you're going to be in debt forever. Because at that pace, you're doing everything at once. Everything is spread so thin that not one thing is being done right. It's just not a great plan. So what I recommend is that temporarily, now listen to me, this is going to be very counterintuitive, or just different from what you think is right or what you heard is right. But I want you to temporarily pause everything, right? When I mean everything, stop, pause your retirement, right? Even if there's a match, I mean, you're going to lose money temporarily, but I promise you go back and you'll fully fund that. You'll be able to put 15% into your 401k and really do well. What's the alternative? That you continue to fund your 401k, and then you borrow from it, and then you rob from your future self. Tell me how that makes sense, right? So that's why most people are borrowing from the 401k. It's a forced plan to save, which is great, right? And that's why we have that much money saved, because if it went into our checking account, I promise you we'll spend it. But what's beautiful about the 401k is that it's an automatic, you don't see it, right? It comes out of your check. You don't get the opportunity to say, hey, I need this. Until you have a big expense come and you buy a house, want to remodel it. I did that, right? Made that mistake of trying to do everything at once without saving for it. I paid off that debt, years ago, and we're in a better situation, but I made those mistakes, right? Because I wanted everything at once. I wanted to kind of live this life that I didn't have to wait to save for things. And what I learned is that once you start doing little things right, it starts trickling over. So going back to what I said, pausing retirement, pausing the college fund for the kids, pausing it. I'm not saying stop permanently. I'm saying pause for a short period of time. Maybe it's a year or two. I don't know. But you go take that extra money from your paycheck that was going to your 401k and start pounding down that debt. Pay off that debt completely. Get out of it. The sooner you're out of debt, let's say, your credit card bills are, $400 a month, right? Let's say your car payment's another $500, right? Call it $900, $1,000 that's going towards that, including your car. Once you free yourself from that, now you can take that $1,000 back for yourself and start investing, start putting money into your 401k again. And not only going back to your 401k and investing, what you were putting before, but you're probably putting double, triple, quadruple what you did before. You're able to max out your 401k, maybe for some of you, right? And then you can go into maybe a Roth IRA and max that out as well. So there's so many options here. But listen, in order for you to build wealth, I would say, listen, a lot of you think that you have to make more money. And that's going to be the end all resolve over how to build wealth over time and what to do. Let me tell you something. If you keep doing what you're doing, more money is not going to resolve your issues. I promise you. I promise you. Think about your life. Think about when you first started working, right? There was a number there. If I could just make 40,000 or 30,000 or 40,000 when I was 18, 20, 25, man, that was all the money I ever needed, right? Then you get to 30, you're like, man, it'd be nice to make 40, 50, 60. You get to that, and it's almost like never enough because your lifestyle continues to increase and elevate. And that's okay and dandy. We want to elevate. We want to increase. We want to get better. But we want to do things right? And we don't want to live for debt, right? We want to release ourselves from debt so that way we can give more, we can save more, we can spend more, right? There's nothing wrong with spending, right? But we have to have that in line with what our budget says. And our budget's always going to be the roadmap to tell us how much we can spend and where to stop. And again, you can do anything you want that fits in a budget. And if it doesn't fit in a budget, then you gotta work something out. So some of you may have to work part-time jobs just to kind of get yourself out of debt because your budget, there's a deficit in your budget. So earning extra income is great. gives you an opportunity to really do that temporarily. I'm talking about a couple of years until you're debt free, then you can get out of that job. It'd be just like going to school. If you wanted to go to school and increase your education, you would make that sacrifice so that way you can increase your income later. There's no difference in getting a part-time so you can release yourself from debt, because once you're free from that debt, guess what? You're giving yourself a raise. So going back to that and saying, hey, listen, if 2020 wasn't the year for me and I didn't do well, how can I change? What can I do to change? Maybe some of you have made a career change. I know it's been tough. Some of you just don't have enough money to go to when you do your budget, you find that deficit, and maybe the part-time job is just not feasible. We got to take care of first our four walls, which is our house, right? If you rent, that's priority, right? You have kids, you got to protect that roof, right? Your utilities are important, right? We have to make sure that there's gas and electric, and if we have a car, we have to protect that transportation, right? Because if you depend on your car to go to work, then you have to have that available. So, these are the areas that are priority. Don't pay your credit cards and not your utilities. Like, it makes no sense. Take care of what's most important first, and then you catch up later. So, sometimes in time things get better, but we have to make good decisions now. It starts here, it starts now. It starts with you making a change in your life, because guess what? We have become a consumer-driven world. I mean, everything's based off the new this, new that, and we have to release ourselves and take it back for ourselves. We have to get to the mentality that, listen, the government's not going to depend on us. Some of you received a stimulus package, right? Which is great. I think a lot of us needed it, right? Some of us really needed it. Some of us didn't need it, right? But let me tell you this. If you're in a place where you really, really needed it, get in a position where next time this happens, because this will happen again, be in a position that you don't need it. That when it comes, it's extra. That you can take that extra and just put in the savings. Go on vacation with it. Do something else. That's a great place to be. But listen, some of you, I understand, needed it and needed to survive, because I understand some of you are not working. Some of you don't have the income that you were, and you have these expenses continue. But if you look at your expenses and you see that a lot of it has to do with what you did. It's credit card debt that you put on yourself. It's a car payment that you got yourself into, right? You got to take responsibility for that. You have to take responsibility over what you can't control. 90% of the things that we worry about don't happen, but there's certain things that we control that do happen, right? And that is something that we have total control over, is the actions that we take, the way we think, right? Our mentality, and the way we move forward. So how we react to things as well. So listen, I hope this encourages you. I hope this helps you. And I promise you, it doesn't matter where your income is. You could be making $30,000 a year. You can be making $3 million a year, right? We all need a plan. Every single one of you needs a plan. And if you don't have a plan, find something that works. Reach out to someone like me. I'm a financial coach that can help you. Sometimes it's okay to ask for help, and that's okay too. But listen, I encourage you to take action. Do something different this year. Read a whole bunch. Stop wasting time in front of the TV. Improve on yourself. Work on all areas of your life, and take it one step at a time. Baby steps. It's about taking one step and doing everything better the next step. And sometimes you take a few steps back. That's okay. You learn from that and move forward. So listen, God bless you all. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. If you like this video, comment on it, share it, subscribe, and look forward to the next video.